Rise from the Ashes Consulting Show. I'm Kevin James.
I'm Tom Duhigg.
We're your host for today's show. Today's show is a continuation of the hiring strategies and the 10 bad interviewing questions you don't want to ask.
Yep.
This show is for you. Starting now.
Right.
We did 1 through 5, and we're going to start with number 6 right now.
Yep. So mistake number 6 you want to avoid at all costs, right? Being late or unprepared for your interview. Right? I mean, if you're late, what does that tell you about your feelings of punctuality?
Yeah. Well, to me, what it tells me, and I've seen managers do this, is you're not important to me, Tom.
Yep.
As my interviewee, you're just not important enough for me to leave all this and come jump over to you.
Yeah, and punctuality isn't important, right? If you're late, you're broadcasting that punctuality is not one of your top priorities, right? So if you're late, then your punctuality is not, one of your top things.
And a disrespectful.
And some interview, I heard this recently, is that some managers are late on purpose to see if the applicant is really serious about the job. Oh, bad.
I've seen that.
That is stupid and short-sighted.
In all the years I've done retail, that's one of the things that they do every single time to me. And I go in for a management position of a big company, and inevitably I'm waiting on the district manager and the manager for 10, 15 minutes before they ever show up into the room to start the interview process. And by then I'm kind of like, okay, am I getting this job? Am I,
Right. But they will definitely want punctuality from the employee, right? From the person they're hiring.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to demand punctuality if they're any good, right? Hey, why were you late? Right? I need to know if you're late again, 3 strikes, you're out. Right?
And they're going to want me to implement it into the employees that we hire underneath me as a manager.
But they themselves can't be on time, right? So here's another lesson that comes.
Or can they?
Yeah, they can. They just can't. For whatever reason, they don't, right? So here's a clear lesson from this number 6 is punctuality equals integrity. You remember that? Okay. Punctuality. There's a direct link for showing up on time to an appointment, a meeting, whatever, and your personal integrity. There's a direct link for you being on time and you being somebody you can trust.
Makes sense.
And they say, just because I'm a few minutes late doesn't mean I lack integrity. I'll challenge you on that. People that are habitually late have other problems. Cheating, lying, something else.
I don't think I've ever really paid attention to that, but now that you mention it, I think that can be a definite character flaw.
Well, if you can't be trusted for small commitments, like I'll be there at 9, right?
That it don't cost you nothing but to be on time.
I can't trust you with bigger things, like contracts, like agreements. I can't, if you can't
like
do
my inventory.
Right. If I can't trust you on a real small, easy to execute commitment, be on time to what you said you would be.
Yeah.
You said you'd be there at 9 and you're at 9:05, 9:10, 9:30. Then I'm not going to trust you in business. And I tell people, do not trust anybody that can't be on time. Right. And it has happened and it proved to me time after time again. Like owners that aren't on time. They have other issues. They're cheating, they're hiding, they're doing something, right? People that don't show up on time think that their time is more valuable than other people's time.
That is exactly what I was going to say. That perceives as comes across as you feel like your time and narcissistic.
Yeah.
Your time's more important than my time.
Right. Everybody's time is equally valuable.
Yes.
I don't care who they are, where they are in the company, if they're brand new, inexperienced person or a veteran. Everybody's time is equally valuable. And it's also very disrespectful. And that's why I tell people, when you don't show up on time, like I have coaching calls, and I'll say, we're done.
Right.
You don't show up on time. I'm sitting there waiting for you and agreed upon time. I'm not going to trust you to pay.
Right.
I'm not going to trust other things. Right. They just don't. They have to be. That's very disrespectful.
So time management definitely is a number 1 priority of your interviewer. They should be there on time because that sets the stage
Right.
for the rest of their employment. What about
Yep.
leaving on time? Like if you say an interview is a certain amount of time.
Like doing what? Sorry.
So if they're leaving on time, what is, I
Leaving?
mean, so if you say the interview, you've brought this up and we've
Mhm.
talked about this. If you say the interview is 20 minutes, what about
Yep.
leaving right at 20 minutes and not going a minute over?
Yeah. But it's showing up on time.
Time is time.
Everybody's time is valuable. Everybody, even down the schedule writing, you got to understand people's times are valuable, right?
Right.
So, people habitually late or unorganized, irresponsible, and unreliable. I mean, that's employees too, that you see it in their work. It's not just they can't show up on time, they can't get things done, they don't
Right.
get things thoroughly. It's just a sign. So if you are late, that qualifies, you qualify in that category. The opposite is true too. There are people that show up on time no matter what. It could be snowing outside. It could be, buses running late. They find a way to get to work. They find a way to be on time. No
Right.
excuses. And they're the ones that own the conversation. And it's really true. We coach managers, directors, everybody. To your point, if you schedule a meeting, you start on time. If it's an hour meeting, you end on time.
Right.
And people understand that. And it drives me crazy. They say, well, wait a couple more minutes for people to join. Oh, you guys are enabling poor performance.
Right.
Poor. You guys are enabling it by waiting that 2 minutes for the people that can't be organized themselves to get on time for the meeting. I start. If they miss it, they start pinging, especially on Zoom calls and Teams meetings.
Right. You'll hear it on
You're
Zoom
ping
calls all
ping,
the
ping.
time.
Oh,
Yes.
look who's late.
Yes.
I go and I don't repeat. I don't start over. It's their responsibility to catch up.
Right.
Not my responsibility to restate anything. So no, I start on time. I end on time. They know that. So they can schedule their personal life that I need them for this hour. That's it. Or this 30 minutes or this 20 minutes. After that, the rest of the time is yours. So they can, control their time management. I don't control their time management.
No.
I control, I help them control their management. So yeah. So the people that are on time really own the conversation. That's happened to me. I'm waiting for somebody. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. I own it then.
And the thing is if you hire a bunch of people and you've shown that as an example of how to act in the business, what your expectations are in the business, and then they know that as a standard, you have 20, 30, 40 employees that understand the process, and it's a well-oiled machine, like wheels in a time clock, or gears in a wheels in a gear. They're always on time, in sync.
Yep.
Because everybody understands a well-written schedule and time management.
And if they're late, I book by the hour. I was booking by the hour. And if it was from 9 to 10, I book from 9 to 10. If they show up at 9:10, I end at 10.
And
they pay for the whole hour. I'm not going to go over. Actually, and they learn.
Yes.
Because they respect that, and they respect those people that are on time and are, especially, it's a small thing, but it's a huge thing when people really practice that punctuality and time limitations.
And if you read any billionaires' books, Trump being one of them, Sam Walton's book, Elon Musk has stuff out there. They are all, if you listen to any of them, Warren Buffett is a big advocate for time management, and he does the same exact thing. 1 hour, you get 1 hour. If you get 1 hour, you get 1 hour. He's not going to extend it for anybody or anything, because his time, he understands time is money. I'm not getting that 5 minutes back there again. I'm not getting 5 minutes back there again. So we're going to stick to the schedule.
Right. So your punctuality,
time management. Your
punctuality is a reflection of your integrity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And this is when punctuality is super important to you, and people know that about you, and they respect you for it. I call that being the example of good leadership.
Okay. Yeah, that would definitely go into our leadership category.
Example of good leadership. Well, what's the difference between being the example of good leadership and leading by example? Is there a difference?
That's a good question.
Is there a difference?
There is a
difference. There is a big difference. And so
I'm surprised nobody asked that on here.
Yeah. They're like, because they're trying to absorb that. Okay.
They are.
Being an example of leadership and leading by example are not the same thing.
So let's explain the difference to
them. When I was interviewing managers, directors, anybody, multi-unit managers, regional directors, one of the things I'd love to ask is what's your leadership style? Somewhere in the interview, it'll come up what, oh, well, by the way, what is your leadership style? Well,
I
how would
love
your
this.
employees describe your leadership? Not working with you. That's a question we don't want to ask.
Right.
How would they describe your leader? Now I'm interviewing the employees through, the applicant. I ask this question because I know what they're going to say. 9 out of 10. So our questions that we ask you are strategic.
Yes,
They're
absolutely.
They're not just thrown out there. It's not just a list. I know what they're going to answer. I know what they're going to answer, and I have a trap set for them because these are people that are looking for
You
high
want me
levels.
to answer it for you?
Yeah.
The answer is what you're expecting is, man, I get in there with them. I show them how to do the job. I'm elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
We're going through this battle together.
Yeah.
And they give all those examples. Am I missing anything?
Well, no, because I ask them, so here's how it works. Is that to your point? I say, okay, so you lead by example. Oh, okay, good. Of course, I just don't stop there.
Right.
Give me examples. What do you mean you lead by example? Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Give me examples. And that's what they say here, quote by quote. I'm not afraid to get into the trenches with my people. Have you heard that?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm not too proud to do any job I ask my employees to do.
Right.
That's leading by example. I will rub elbows with my people.
Oh, there you go.
Right. I lead by example by rubbing elbow to elbow with people. Right. Okay. That's leading by example in their minds all the way to the top.
Yep.
Right. That's what they tell me. And I know they're going to talk. And of course, my follow-up question is,
yeah.
So I said, describe that. Oh, you're cooking next to them. You're selling next to them. You're whatever.
All the time, 40 hours a week.
Right. I said, okay, sounds like you're a good trainer, if anything, or maybe you're a good coworker.
Ouch.
Right.
Yes.
And that the conversations come to a screeching halt because there's no longer leadership. Right. I pulled it out of the leadership context. Okay, you're a worker. You're a good coworker. Hopefully you're better than them, or at least you can keep up. I can't keep up with some of these employees that I used to have with.
You're a working manager.
You're working man. Okay, if that's your working manager, there's no leadership in that. That's not real leadership unless you're a trainer. Training could be part of leadership, maybe, but we don't necessarily say so. So that leads to my next question, right? Is how often are you doing these things? Elbow to elbow in the trenches, right?
All the time.
And now that leads
I'm right there with them.
Right. And that leads to why?
Yeah.
Are you doing it so much? And it comes back to I'm short-staffed. Right? It comes right back to their and so that's what they think leadership is.
There's an example of that. We just had a restaurant in town that my wife and I went and ate at. And I asked the girl, I said, man, you're really just all over the place. You're really doing a great job and blah, blah, blah. She goes, it's kind of hard to find good people. So I turned her on to our program. But she was doing everything. She was doing dishes, doing the register, cooking the pizzas, and waiting the tables. She was doing everything.
And is that leading?
Is that leading, or
is that
actually
by example,
running the store?
Right. Yeah. So that's what they think leadership is working elbow to elbow and doing the job for their employees. But who's training them that that's not leadership?
Right.
When they think that's leadership, where are they getting all that from? Right. Well, that's not leadership.
No,
not in our book. And we want to train in our leadership, in our gatekeeper leadership program. We say that is not leadership. Right. So that isn't leadership. So they think that's leading by example. It really is training or working with them because there's a flaw in their leadership that they're short staffed. They can't keep staff. So they're forced to do that. So really it has nothing to do with leadership other than maybe poor leadership. I can't stay staffed.
Right. Without no retention.
And when I dig down in here, I usually realize that they're doing the 10 errors.
Right.
They're committing 1, 2, 5, or all 10 of them interviewing mistakes, and they can't get people. It's a revolving door. So really it's a sign of bad leadership when you're doing that, not necessarily good leadership, but that's, for a different thought, different class. So being the example of leadership is very different. You show up on time because that's who you are, because that's what real leaders do, right? You keep all your commitments large or small. You try to. Now, some things you might say you just can't possibly do. Circumstances change. I'm going to talk about that.
Right.
I'm talking about you are keeping all the commitments you can as often as you can, right? And you show integrity. You show respect for people's time and respect for them, no matter what their position is, right? That's being the example of leader, of being the example of leadership that they can look to you and go, look at. I want to be like that.
Right.
I want to emulate that leadership. Right. So my whole career. So how many people have you worked for that really you thought in everything they did what were the examples of the leadership that you would like to be, coming through your career. Like this guy, this is it. I want to be like them in these ways. I know not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But overall, this is this person's leadership style is one I want to emulate.
In 35 plus years of working, probably barely a handful.
Yeah.
Barely a handful.
Yep.
I'm going to mention a couple. D. Smith for Smith's Food King, the owner of D. Smith. He was an example, a fine example of true leadership. He would rather, to use a Bible quote, teach a man to fish than fish for them. And that's how he become who he was. Abel Porter, which was his, later on took over Smith's Food King. He was a great leader. So I did have a few that I was fortunate enough to be able to get a lot of knowledge from. But like I said, 35 years, it was only a few.
40 years for me, 5. I can name 5.
Wow.
Now, it's not saying that the rest couldn't be examples of leadership.
Right.
They refused to be examples of leadership.
Right.
Meaning, when they would say something, as soon as the words left their mouth, they knew they weren't going to do it.
Right.
They knew that was just fluff, that it was BS, that it's just, they're not going to fulfill those, or set up a bonus program that they know nobody's going to hit.
Right. Or their favorite thing is to say, I'm going to be right here for you. It's an open door policy. I'm always here. And then you go to them and they make you feel about this small because you don't know the answers, but there was no training.
Right.
So,
and it's not that they couldn't be, they just refused.
They refused to be.
They make decisions every day and then you can't trust anything they say. You can't trust them.
Right.
And so they just refused to. So like I said, handful that I really trusted. Right. And we incorporated a lot of that into our training.
Right.
Taking the best from all of them.
That was important to us because we wanted people to not feel like they were taking somebody else's job, but they were just doing the best job they can do.
Yep.
And through the training.
And I tell applicants, if the interviewer is late for your interview, get up and walk out. Just walk out. If you're sitting there 10, 15 minutes, just leave.
Yeah.
Don't, because it's going to be bad. They don't respect you or your time. They're not ready. Just leave. So, and then, they're going to, of course, in the interview, they sit down and say, hey, tell me about your punctuality at previous jobs. The sharp applicants are going to say, why are you asking me about punctuality? You don't even have punctuality. Yeah, you left me sitting here 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
The good ones. Now, the bad ones aren't going to think that. They're not going to notice that you were late. And you're asking them a question about being late. And those are the people that you're going to bring on. Right.
You have an example of that from the other day that you were just telling me about. Someone was aware of our program and was sitting in a restaurant actually eating lunch.
Yeah.
And overheard. What was that story? How did that go?
Yeah, they overheard an interview. They overheard the manager be late on purpose. And they overheard just selling the job, all the things that we said. It was a total disaster. And we don't know if the person got hired or not. But yeah, he's a gatekeeper hired trained interviewer. And he was telling me all about it. He goes, it really was bad. And it started with the manager not being on time, right? But the good employees that you want to hire are going to pick up on that, right? They're going to go, well, you weren't on time to the interview. Why are you asking me about it? And those are the ones that aren't going to come back. They're not going to come back for another interview. They're not going to show up for day one because of your lack of integrity and punctuality.
And can you blame them?
No, I say go. The better ones go somewhere else where they're going to be ready. So we say, be ready at the front door when they come in or wherever, greet them, have the table set up, waters, notes for, paper for notes. And what does that tell them about the punctuality? If it's an hour interview, you start right on time, boom, not 10 minutes early, not 1 minute late, right on time and end right on time. What does that tell an applicant?
Oh,
without saying anything.
Without saying anything, it would tell me that you find me valuable.
Yep.
That you take this job very seriously. Yep. And that it's very orderly.
And punctuality is
one of the most important things.
Right. This guy's on time. Oh, he's sending the message that I better be on time.
Right.
So now what about being unprepared? Right. If you're unprepared for the interview, and a lot of them are, I hear this, and we define unprepared as there's no strategy. There's no research. There's nothing. And they're kind of winging it. Right. The sharp people are going to think you're unorganized. Right. And poor time management because you're not even ready for the interview. Not only are you late, but you're not prepared. Right. And keep in mind that the sharper applicants are interviewing you and watching you at the same time. They're going, is this somebody I want to work with? Right. Yeah. And I like to ask the interviewers and HR people. So I said, let me know your hiring strategies. Let me see some of the questions you ask.
Right.
Right. Where's your script? Where's your, some notes? What are you doing? Well, I know in my head what I'm going to ask. And I kind of, as the interview goes, I just kind of wing it.
Right.
And I trust my gut. Oh, that's how you hire. You wing it and trust your gut. Where we have a well thought out plan, strategized system.
I call that the likability.
Yeah.
If I like them, I'll hire them.
Right.
We're going to get into that.
There's no strategy. Yeah. And so you're trusting your gut. How often is the gut?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Zero.
I
don't trust my gut.
We tell them don't trust your gut. Why would you, when you have a good system,
right?
Why would you have to trust your gut?
Right.
You trust your gut during the interview. You're making those calls then, but not the way they do it. I just trust my gut. I think they'll be fine. You think they'll be fine. You didn't interview well. You know nothing about these people.
And that's why you have a retention problem.
Right. So you got to have a strategy. You have to have interview questions. You got to have a job description. You got to have their resume or application there. You got to know there's no gut feeling here. Are they a match or are they not a match? You don't even need to tap into your gut.
Right.
It's pretty obvious. So make sure you have a strategy, be on time and be prepared. Number 7, don't do heartstring hiring and rehiring. So what is heartstring hiring? Well, when we feel sorry for the applicant, right? They're tugging on your heartstrings. You think that they need a break in life, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to fix them. I think I'll be the one to actually give them a break and give them the shot that they need, right? But their past is irresponsible, unprofessional, self-destructive work history. It's a wreck, right? And you're going to be the one to fix them, right? Tell you what, you don't have the energy, you don't have the time, you don't have the resources to fix anybody.
No.
Especially them, because it's all behavioral thing. It's mindset and behavior and attitude. You can't fix that. They have to come to you already fixed, right? They fix themselves. Your job is to screen out poor performers, not bring them in and try to give them a shot that you're going to be the best guy.
Now, and how would you do that?
Screen them out? Well, that's the interview process.
Yes.
Then basically by not committing the mistakes is going to solve a lot of that by not doing these mistakes. It'll be the first step to getting to a really good interview.
That's all part of this process of how we go through all of this.
Now, so I've always been challenged on this too. So heartstring hiring, that means you're heartless. No, we're not. I mean, I've hired and you've hired special needs people, handicapped people,
absolutely,
people that are really good. They get in there, they did their focus, they did the job, and I've had some that had handlers with them, and a whole bus people come in, and they just clean the place up better than any employee would do, and they're focused and they're great employees. I'm not talking about that. I've hired felons, felonies in the past. So say, well, if there's a felon that is disqualified, really. In our gatekeeper hiring process, felonies are not a disqualifier.
Right.
Now, there are some issues there, recent and relevant and some other things, right?
Right.
But again, they come to you fixed. If they pass that first gatekeeper interview, they bring them in regardless, because they fixed themselves, right? They're coming to you that way. Yeah. They're starting a new life. And that's the point. What about people that have been fired? Would you hire somebody that's been fired?
From another company?
Yeah.
It would depend. It would be, again, the questions through gatekeeper, because what if they were fired because of poor leadership and management of another job?
Right.
What if they were fired for lack of training, and that would be the leadership of the other job? So they come to you, somebody tosses them the keys and says, okay, close up tonight. And then the next day say, well, why didn't you do this as this? Well, I was never trained. That's a bad excuse. Go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if they were just a misunderstanding or whatever? What if they're reformed? Absolutely. And you give them a shot. You go through the process, of course, and find out if they really are reformed, and if they are reformed.
Were they good employees fired by poor bosses, or a bad employee fired by a good boss? I think there's more bad bosses out there than good bosses out there. Right. So I'm willing to give a shot. Again, you have to do your gatekeeper interviewing to get to the truth. Right. But if they're upfront and truthful about it, and it makes sense, and you've done your cross-examination, That's not a disqualifier.
Right.
So, yeah, but they'll try to tug on your heartstrings. I'll ask an owner, why did you hire that? I listened to the interview. Why would you hire him? Well, I know he's got a train wreck of a work history. I know 3 months there, 2 weeks there, and all that.
Yeah.
But I really like the guy.
He's a golfing buddy.
Yeah, I really like the guy.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it has nothing to do with whether you like him or not.
Right.
We like them all.
Yeah.
We see them as all fellow human beings. You're not going to go drinking with them, I hope. Right? So it has nothing to do with if you like them or not.
Right.
Look at, are they going to be a match for you, a long-term match, right? And so people hire people that they like.
Again, do they fit the position?
Right. Yeah. And what's worse than that is some of these young managers they hire people they want to hang out with. Hey, I got another person just like me. Well, let's go hang out after work and we'll go to the bars or whatever. If that's why you're hiring.
And what gets talked about the next day at work?
Yeah.
While the customer's sitting there waiting to ring up their shoes or their new clothes or whatever. And these two employees just hung out last night.
Yeah. The manager and the employee, or the owner and the employee. Oh, it's bad.
Yeah. That never turns out well for the customer.
Well, and then sometimes they hire them because they want to date them.
Yeah.
Well, they're very attractive. They're so attractive I might be asking them out. And there's the manager, the owner hiring because they want to date them. No, it's going to lead to exposure, illegal exposure, and all kinds of issues, harassment potential, and just bad culture. And everybody picks up on that. And it's just a big mistake.
Only time we hire is if they match
their match. Right. So heartstring hiring, you can't fix them. They got to come fixed.
No.
So, to go through. These are mistakes a lot of people make. We see them
all the time.
What about rehires? Heartstring rehires, right? Well, this is people that have quit you abruptly, usually with no notice, or got fired for poor performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You bring them back because it's easy. They're already trained, right? Don't have to train them. Just throw them in, and they keep going. I trust they'll do a good job. Besides, they told me the grass wasn't greener where they went. You're the best boss I've ever had, right? Yeah. So they tug on your heartstrings and butter you up and compliment you and say you're the best. And you go, well, let me give it another shot, right? Mm-hmm. That's how they get in, right? My experience, and I've counted them, 85% of rehires do not make it past 3 months to 6 months, maybe a year. But now that means 15% do. Okay, so there's some that do. You really got to be careful who you bring back. But if I'm a new owner, or 85% chance this person's not going to, I already know they're not going to make it. So why would I take that chance on?
I've got an example of that. I had that in my pool company. I had one of my employees end up, his wife separated from him and went to another town. And he said, I got to make more money. I got to get back home. So he left us after 2.5 years, went to another company, didn't like it. And I knew he'd been going through a lot. So I took him back. Mm-hmm. 3 weeks later,
was that a heartstring rehire?
It was a heartstring rehire and
I've done it too.
I've done it. Yeah.
We're all guilty of it.
And I knew against better judgment that this wasn't going to work out. Yep. I did it. And 3 weeks later, he was gone. And then come to find out he wasn't even halfway servicing the pools and whatever. Yeah. So it left me in a bad position with my customers. So I know you want to humanize all these,
I know,
and fix them, but you can't. You have a business to run.
Right. So it's a tough lesson, but a good lesson. Yeah, I got burned too, heartstring. That's why I said it's heartstring. They tug on my heartstrings, and we're all human. Mm-hmm. We're all very empathetic people, and we bring them in, and it just ends up. Not only do but they take people with them. Yeah. Because and they don't go through the process. They don't go through the interview process. They don't go through the training. They're just thrown in there.
No. And I didn't. It was like, okay, yeah, come on back. I already know the job you do for me. So for 2.5 years, you did a great job. So, yeah.
Well, and also, what's the big process that they don't go through? The interview. Do you interview every hire?
No. You didn't interview. That's what I'm saying. I didn't interview him. Right. I just hired him back.
But if you went, and the reason why you would never rehire like that is because they would not pass your first interview.
They wouldn't. True.
Because at first
think about it, because
it's the gatekeeper, right?
Because you got to ask them,
right?
Why did you leave your previous boss, which was me?
Well, see, in part one, we said don't ask that question head on, right? Because you don't know the person.
No.
But if you know them and you know why they left,
you can ask it.
You'd ask direct.
You would.
So tell me again why you quit the first time.
Exactly.
And you know why they quit.
Yeah.
That you know exactly why they quit.
Yeah.
Because you were a terrible boss. I didn't like the job. I didn't
Can't
like
get
my
along with
coworkers.
somebody.
I didn't like the hours. I didn't like what I was doing, and I hated it. I hated being here. It
And
was,
here
you know,
you are out of desperation. Yeah, please come back.
so
Please.
and if they tell you that, you're gonna say no thanks. Nothing's changed. I'm still
Right.
here. Business
Right.
has not changed, and we're not going to evolve to make you happy.
Right.
They wouldn't pass the first interview, so don't put them through that humiliation. Right?
Do them a favor. Don't hire
rehire them.
Yeah.
Don't rehire them just because you have to put them through that process, and they'll be happier somewhere else, right?
And they'll be okay.
Yeah. So no heartstring hiring or rehiring. If you're going to rehire somebody, we go through the gatekeeper process, and if they don't pass, they don't pass. Right? If they pass, then then
give it a shot.
Go on and give it a shot. Number 8, allowing the applicant to flip the interview and start interviewing you.
This intrigues me.
Flipping, yes.
This intrigues me because I know you're going to give us an example of this, and I love this because it happens all the time.
The interview flip.
Yep.
This happens accidentally or on purpose as a strategy. So accidentally, both these situations happen to inexperienced and untrained interviewers, where interviews are flipped. They've not been trained how to do interviews correctly, and the interviews are getting turned over. So usually, experienced and trained interviews won't let that happen. But this is what happens: is the interviewer is asking the questions, and then the interviewee, a candidate, stops, interrupts it, and starts asking questions in the interview. Right? So accidentally means the interview is not going well, right? And the applicants like the questions are kind of like we know
over his head,
so they start asking questions back because they don't understand the line of questioning. So they'll start asking. That's when it's accidental, and then you feel obligated to answer. They're asking you a question, and you start going blah. And tell them all about the job. And you said, do not tell anything about the job. Right. And this is why. This is why you don't. Because what they're going to do is ask you what you're looking for. And you're going to tell them. Right. And so when it's deliberate, and this happens usually in managers that are trained, usually by the recruiters or hiring experts, they say, flip the interview. Right. So as often as you can, flip it. And then when you flip it, you want to ask these kind of questions like what's a perfect fit for the job, and you're asking them,
and this is the interviewee asking
the interviewer. This is the applicant. Look,
yeah,
what are you looking for in this position? This is what they ask. This is what they're trained to ask. And so what are you looking for in the position? So the interviewer says, this is what I'm looking for.
Yep.
They answer the question right there. What qualifications are a perfect fit? Well, I'm looking for this, right?
Yeah.
And so the professional interviewee, the candidate is going, oh, cool. I've got a lot of ammunition here for the next question, right? And then another good one is, who are the most successful people in the company and why, right? And so this is why I think, oh, those are good questions. You're stepping into a trap.
Right.
And so you tell them what the best people are. And then what they do is they flip the interview back. Now they know how to answer those questions that they know they're going to be asked.
They just reword it in a different
right. Why are you
format.
qualified? They're going to ask you, why do you think you should take this job? Right.
And
so they're going to say, well, this is why, because you told me this. I am this. And you go, oh, you are a perfect match.
Right.
Right.
So I'm Joe Smith, and I come in to interview with you, and I flip the question that way. How would you flip it back so that you're not being rude or anything? You're just going to stay ahead of the game and control the situation.
Yeah. So knowing that it's being flipped, maybe accidentally, right? Or even on purpose. On purpose, you'll know what's going on.
Right.
But accidentally, or either way, you go, hey, that's a great question. That's why there's something to write on. Write that question down, and at the end of the interview,
right?
I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So write that one down. That's a really good one. And they okay, and they'll write it down. But if they're doing it on purpose, they're not gonna like that,
right? Because
they're not qualified. There's something going on, and they're trying to get information from you.
And instead of being able to cover up what they lack in integrity, or not integrity, but in skills, instead of being able to cover that up, now it's exposed.
Right.
In a polite manner.
And I've had interviewers, or I've had candidates try to flip after every question, because this is what they need to do. They know they're not doing well.
Right.
So they're trying desperately to flip. And I'll say, no, that's a good question. Write it down. I said the same thing. And after a while, I'll get a little annoyed. I say, well, I think I told you at the end, we'll have plenty of time. But by this, the interview's over. Right. I'm not going to hire this guy, right? He's trying to professionally flip it. And sometimes it goes really south. And they hang up on me, or get up and walk out.
That's a perfect example of the chess game.
Yeah.
They're trying to
trying to get me to
control the
flip it.
chessboard. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, don't let them flip. If it's an accidental flip, they'll be okay. I'll wait for the end. If they're trying on
Mhm.
purpose, they're going to try it again and again and again. Now, again, inexperienced and untrained interviewers will let them flip it as many times as they want.
And this is you young managers out there that are looking for a different way of doing things. Be aware of this, because there is guys that are older in the industry that interview, they understand this game and they know how to make you
Right.
hire them. So
Kevin, have you ever been a general manager of a restaurant before?
I have never. That's the one thing I've never done. I've never run a restaurant.
Would you like to be a general manager of a restaurant?
And I'm going to say, for the sake of this exercise, yes, I would love to be a manager.
Okay.
How would I do that?
So you've never been a general manager, and I can get you a job, a top-paying general manager of a high-volume restaurant, great salary, great benefits, great bonus program. I can do that for you, and you have never had 1 minute experience at it.
Now be careful, Tom. You're selling me on this job. Okay, I'll play along.
Okay,
This
so
sounds
I'm
great.
going to tie in what we've talked to in the first 5. First thing I would do is fake your resume. The first thing I would do, I'd put jobs on there that you didn't have, or exaggerate your positions that you had before to make it look like there's some transferable skills from what you
Okay.
did before. I would take your retail experience and blow it up, so it's like restaurant retail.
Mhm.
I would put maybe a job that you never had in there, because nobody's going to check.
Do not try this at home.
Yeah, don't do this at home. I'm telling you this because this is what we battle with.
Right.
So first thing to do, I'd make that resume super tight, where you left one job for a great reason, start another job right away because you recruited. It'll sound great. I'll make you sound great. I will coach you how to answer the restaurant questions that you're going to be asked, because I know what they are. I'll tell you how to answer when it comes up here or there. I'll give you the answers ahead of time, and they'll be fine with that. They go, "Oh, great answer.
Yeah.
Check." Third thing I'll do is teach you how to flip an interview. So when it gets hairy and you're kind of going to get exposed for not having 1 minute experience, you're going to strategically flip the interview and flip it back and start asking the interviewer questions. And you might have to do this 4, 5, 6 times during the interview. And then you flip it back at the right time and then tell them what they want to hear. Because they're not going to challenge you. They're not going to doubt it. They're going to think you're the best thing that they've ever hired. And that's it. Fake resume. Know how to answer all the questions they're going to ask, because they're going to ask the same questions. I'll tell you what superhero. Maybe make sure it's Superman.
Right. Make
not
sure
Batman. Don't say it's Batman.
Don't
Super. Tell you all the right answers, what they're going to ask. I'll tell you exaggerated
That's right, 'cause I want the
accomplishments.
job.
Right. I'll tell you about food,
Right.
all that. I'll download with you all that stuff. So it sounds like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And then strategic flipping of the interview back and forth, and you'll get that job. I almost guarantee it. Sad.
But that's
what
crazy. The world that we live in is so systematic. Now, before you go on, though,
Yeah.
I did go to a restaurant earlier today.
Okay. There we go.
And as you can tell, the restaurant I went to was Black Bear Diner out in TA Tonopah.
Yeah.
And the manager out there, his name's Brian. He's a great guy. If you get out there, make sure you say hello to Brian out in Tonopah at Black Bear. He gave me this coffee cup so we could use it on the show today, because I told him about the whole coffee cup thing.
Great.
So I said, yeah, take our coffee cup, use it on the show. So Brian, thank you out at Black Bear Diner.
Right on,
we
Brian.
appreciate. Now tell me about your coffee cup. We'll take a coffee cup break here.
Yep, coffee cup is from Guadalajara, Mexico. My wife is born and raised in Guadalajara, and this was a souvenir from one of the trips, and a nice convenient spoon.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I think it's for cream and sugar.
That's not a lot of cream and sugar.
Yeah, I think. But that's a convenient spoon right there. It is a little rough, so I don't know if you're supposed to keep it in there or remove it when you're drinking.
If I was in Guadalajara and I had this spoon, I'd probably add a little tequila in.
Yeah, maybe tequila. But yeah, I thought that was
very
cool.
nice.
Yeah, very cool.
All right. So
flipping the interview,
controlling the interview.
Don't let them flip it.
Don't let them
flip it.
If you're the hiring manager, don't let them
take control.
Yes. And not brutally bend their arm behind their back or anything like that, but just remind them if they have any questions at the very end.
Yeah,
to write them down.
You got the rapport with them;
Yeah.
they should be fine. If they're trying to sneak it in there and they're trained and they want to get it from you because they have some problems in their work history, which you probably see. We teach people how to read resumes and reconstruct the resume, but you have an issue there and they're trying to flip it. You got a bad apple there.
And just remember, if they're not purposely trying to flip it, it may be just a nervous habit because that rapport is not completely built yet. So they could be flipping it unintentional. Just I can't have dead silence, so I've got to ask a question.
Right. And that goes
And
to
trying to flip it. And it
mistake
goes
number
both.
9.
Yeah.
Not creating rapport with the applicant,
Mm.
right? Or losing the rapport during the interview. not establishing the rapport and then losing it during the interview. I see this too. We coach it.
I
It's
see
very
that all
important.
the time.
So, and no interview should start until rapport has been established. It means there's talking going on.
Right.
And we teach that how to establish rapport in 45 seconds to a minute, real quickly by certain questions you ask and certain things, the establish rapport. So, but that interview does not start until rapport. So what is rapport? So I got the dictionary. I love this definition. A friendly, harmonious relationship based on mutual understanding, trust, and agreement. That's what rapport is. So there's 2 people, they're harmonious relationship, harmonious. It's good. We're getting along. We think the same. We're good friends all of a sudden. Mutual understanding. I get you. I know what you're talking about, and that comes through the interviews. Oh, I can see, you don't necessarily have to agree with them, but I can see how you feel that way. And mutual understanding, trust. They trust you that you're not going to blow up on them. You trust that's they trust you that you have their best interests at heart when you're doing this, right? And agreement that this is going well, and we'll see if you're a match, and we'll see if you're not a match, and no problem. So that leads to honest, calm interviews. Once the established rapport, once you have rapport, you can control the interview. There's very little flipping, right? And you control the outcome, whether they get hired or not, because you have a really good, honest interview. So, we teach how to do that quickly because you have to be able to establish it quickly. I mean, you think about it, and you want to put them at ease anyway, right? They come in, they're nervous, intimidated.
Well, what's the first thing you do? You take them to the office.
Oh,
come on back to my office.
Hopefully not.
With the big chair that looks like Santa Claus's chair. It's huge.
Yep.
And you're twirling around in it and slapping your pencil on the desk. And I mean, that has a very intimidating effect. So try not to do that.
And how often do you really enjoy getting interviewed? It's not joyful.
It's like doing a test in school. Nobody enjoys it.
So they're dreading it. They can't wait for the interview over. They just go in there and they're trying to put their big. So the walls go up, right? The defenses go up. Immediately. You got to get that rapport. So all the walls start coming down. They're relaxed. They're more honest. So you have to establish that rapport because they're going to feel nervous, intimidated. You got to get that out of there.
Have them in a conference room or something, and then have a couple cups of coffee there and some water. And you said the tablet and the paper. Maybe a massage therapist to rub their shoulder.
Yeah,
no, just kidding.
And if there's no rapport, they're not going to be honest. They're going to exaggerate stuff.
Yes.
They're going to try to flip it. They're going to can't wait for the interview to be over, and they're going to be anxious and nervous if there's no rapport, and they're not going to give you honest answers.
They won't. That's exactly where I was going to say. Is you'll never get a straight answer, and then it's just the interview could go bad. That could have went well, just by someone being that nervous. And the rapport not being built by the manager.
So we train this too, and when we're in person doing in-person training, we will show them what it looks like when rapport is established.
And speaking of the in-person training, that our listeners and viewers, I didn't bring it up in the last part of the show, but in part 2, I want to make sure I got it in there. Is we will offer a free assessment of the business, and we'll send that to you. It's absolutely free. Give you a couple of tips and pointers that may help you do your business, turn it around right away. But that could also going for hiring coaching, for our marketing plans, for our financial plans, the overall operations. We have a free 30-minute consultation on the phone. You can give us a call. You could send us an email or jump on our website at www.risefromtheashesconsulting.com and just fill out the format. We'll get back to you. We love helping people out,
especially in hiring.
Especially on hiring. Well, I like marketing personally.
Marketing. Well,
marketing and sales is my favorite. You'll see me go off on that stuff.
And I'll be operations, hiring.
There you go.
Operation access.
Absolutely.
So rapport, one-on-one, right? So don't do group interviews. Now here's where we get in trouble.
Yes, we do.
Right? And they say, "What do you mean don't do group interviews? We all do group interviews, and it's worked for us forever." I go, "You think it does? Well, let's look at your turnover. and we'll see, oh, your turnover is as good as or as bad as everybody else. I don't see any advantage. In fact, sometimes it's worse.
Let's say you have, I know one corporation uses 5 or 6 different interview people, and you're doing great through the first 4, and then the last 2 you tank. So do you get the job or do you not get the job?
And how
why?
do they vote?
And why? Yeah. Is it popularity contest?
Right.
The group
I don't know.
interviews never work.
No. And you can't establish rapport. I mean, how do I establish rapport with even 2 people? But sometimes there's 3, 4 on a panel, 5.
Right.
So I'm the applicant. It's like the chess game is good. Now you're really encouraging the chess game.
Right.
Because now I'm saying it to here. I'm talking to 5 people at once.
Right.
So really stressful. You don't get a good answer. They can't be, they don't let their guards down, right? As like on a one-on-one. So do not do that. It's very frustrating, stressful for the applicant, right? And why would you want to put somebody through that? So one thing, our consistent theme here is we want people to be relaxed. We want to be having a good experience. Even interviewing is a good experience. It's not so why would you do that to a potential customer? Drill them like that and put them through that kind of stress.
Yeah, I never understood it. And then the thing is I've heard people's answer on this is because they want to squeeze out the bad answers because eventually the truth will come out. Well, you've made the guy so confused by the time you'll never get the truth.
No.
Yeah.
And then, so why do they do group interviews? And I've been involved in some of them. And I think the only thing after being part of it, I don't like being part of it because I can't establish the rapport that I want to. They just don't want accountability. There are 5 people on the panel. Well, we all thought it was good. Who do you blame for the hire?
Yeah.
See, if it's the owner and they have a lot of turnover, I can go right to that owner and say, hey, let's look at your interview style.
Right.
I blame the owner, right? You're not hiring right. And the owner says, I don't know how to hire. Show me how to hire. Right. But if there's a panel, I'd say the whole process is wrong. Not the one person, the whole group interview is wrong. And you don't learn anything that way. Because one-on-one, I go down rabbit holes.
Right.
But I've tried that in group interviews, and then they bring up another thing and get them off track. So now my line of questioning is gone. Right. So I can't get to the points I want to because somebody else interjected a different question. So they're not good for rapport. Yeah, well, the rapport is mandatory to get a good interview.
I don't know why my mind went off in this. It's kind of like speed dating.
Yeah.
How would that be? How do you get to know somebody?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, time's up. Next.
Yep.
It's the same way with management.
How does anybody? It's boom. It's boom. It's boom. And on the phone, I've been on the phone where boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh, this is insane.
What's he a perfect fit for? How? I don't know, but he did say this. Yeah. Well, he told me this. You ever play Heads Up 7-Up in school?
Yeah. Yep.
And by the time it gets down to the other end of the class, it's a totally different conversation. Well, that's how that group hiring goes.
And we all have the same notes. What did you like about them? We all like the same things.
Yeah, we all say the same thing.
I'm like, no. Yeah. There's no.
Now we go back to that.
Now we're going to decide.
Trip them up. Yeah.
Now we're going to hire somebody based on that. So no group interviews. So how do you lose rapport once you've got it? Right. Here's some ways to do it. Yeah. Here are the best ways to lose rapport. Be unprofessional during the interview. Or be inappropriate, like too personal, or telling inappropriate jokes.
Right.
Or making comments that are inappropriate, that are embarrassing. Right. That's how you lose rapport. So, instantly, and then usually it's gone. Once you lose rapport, it's gone this way.
Right.
You're not gonna get it back. Making it too personal or even creepy. I've seen that where the manager's like getting real close and just like being too personal. Like, what do you do? Like you mentioned, what do you do after work? What do you do? Like, almost like, what are you doing tonight after work? Almost like asking him out for a date.
Well, I like this guy because he golfs. So I'm going to go golfing with him, or he plays chess. Like you said, you play chess. So no, I play chess, or I do karaoke. Oh, let's go all hang out at karaoke.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about that. The next day at work, everybody's talking about the night before, and who pays for it? The customer.
Yeah.
In retail, well, in restaurants, because they're too busy chit-chatting over here about their night before, and the manager and the employees, and it never turns out well.
Yep. If you're talking down to him, putting him on the spot, making him defensive, right? That's all going to ruin rapport. You're not going to get it back.
Right.
Right. Asking the gotcha questions. So it's an obvious gotcha question where there really is no good answer. Right.
And he's already uncomfortable in your big office with your big chair.
And they know it's a gotcha question.
Yeah.
Right. They know it's this. Oh, you just want me to look bad or say something stupid. Right. And it's a gotcha question. Don't ask those questions. It has nothing to do with it. You're not trying to outsmart them. That's the chess game, the mental chess. You're trying to checkmate them. That's not a good thing. Oh, here's a big one. Being distracted and interrupted
Mm.
during the interview. No distractions, no calls, no interviews. In fact, in restaurants, I would tell the interviewer, interview in the lobby or there, but your back is to production. You tell everybody, do not disturb me for these next 20 minutes or 30 minutes
Right.
or whatever it is. Hold everything. Do not talk to me. I don't care what's going on. If the place is burning down, I'll smell it. Right.
Right.
So no. And then
So an atypical.
Right.
Atypical would be, hey, Tom, I'm Kevin. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
manager here at blank, blank, blank
Mm-hmm.
retail store. Pleasure to have you come. Oh, what's that, Sandy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hold on 1 second. I just got Tom here. He's going to be our new hire. He wants to. Anyways, what experience did you have? Oh, yeah, I seen on your resume.
Yeah.
And I'm not letting you talk at all.
Yeah.
Did you know this job comes with 2 weeks paid vacation and your uniform is and can you start Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, great, Tom. It's great to have you come in. I'm sorry I kept you. What's that, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you told me earlier that
No,
most of the job interviews you had, they were late and totally distracted.
100%. Every management position that I've took in retail, I've never had one where the manager and district manager always interview you together when it comes to that level of management. So they come in, they do the interview together. Well, you're either waiting on one or the other because they're busy running the store. So I sit there for 10 or 15 minutes in a cold office in a little tiny chair that's facing 2 big chairs. It's always that way. It's always that way. And then they walk in frazzled with walkie-talkies, 10 minutes late, walkie-talkies on their side that's going off every 2 seconds that has nothing to do with them. And then they get called in the middle of one of my answers. They get called. How did they figure out I could run their store out of that chaos?
You showed up?
I showed up. I was on time. They weren't.
You were telling me those examples, like, God, that's horrible.
Isn't that? I mean, it's
horrible.
And it's every single.
And did you feel respected or disrespected on this?
I felt desperate at the time because I needed the job. And apparently they needed me. And I felt
that was a match.
I was told I was a match because I was frazzled because they were frazzled. And I felt totally disrespected because it wasn't on time.
Right.
It was totally.
That's the bottom line. Disrespectful.
It was
totally, you took jobs you needed. It was a match. They needed a body. You need a job. Let's go. That's not how we want you to hire. Yeah. So really, not recreating rapport. Make sure you recreate that rapport with that applicant, because that's what. And nothing happens until that happens. You can't even start. And then don't lose the rapport by being a professional with distractions and all that. Because once you lose it, you're not getting it back.
Right.
You're not getting it back. So.
You know what? A perfect example of how things should be run right is we actually have a doctor in California that we go to. You're familiar with him. That took the vow of poverty. And so he only takes whatever the insurance pays. He's a great doctor. I think he's almost out of practice now, just retiring purposes. But his rule was once you were behind that door in his practice, that was it. No interruptions.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to bring up his name. It's Dr. Brooks in Blythe, California. Absolutely wonderful man. Mm-hmm. It was so frustrating. I'll tag him. He's a good friend.
He's going to get bombarded.
He is.
Where's all this coming from?
Where's this coming from? Kevin? So on this side in the waiting room, it's frustrating because he actually just, in his world, when you were behind that door, you were his and he was yours. And there nothing else existed. No phone calls, no emergencies, no nothing. That's it. But when you were on the other side of it, it was a little frustrating because you were waiting hours to get in to see this man. Mm-hmm. But once you got back there, he made you feel so comfortable. And so everybody is Dr. Brooks' best friend because he's that kind of person.
Yeah.
And, but that's how the interview should go. It's 9:00. Both of you are there on time. You go in the room, shut the door, take the walkie-talkie, turn it off, turn off the phones, put them on silent, and you're theirs and they're yours.
Right.
That's it. Because that respect, I guarantee you, Tom, and I've had this happen with employees, that respect will transfer into the work that they do for you. That loyalty and respect will be there all the time. because you made them feel 10-foot tall and
Mhm.
bulletproof in that interview process.
And in restaurants, like I said, my background is mainly restaurants, but I've helped others too. You're like talking about a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, the same thing. I mean, they're just like feel valued. And because I've seen the opposite happen where parents will drop the 16, 17-year-old first job. They would come in and then leave or hand an application, fill it out and come back, or then they hand it to an employee and the employee has this application. Oh, this is my replacement. Trash, so they don't feel valued at all. And then the parents say, what happened? Well, they wouldn't even talk to me because I don't have experience. And we were talking about how do you know they don't have experience?
And you want to empower somebody, empower a 16, 17, 18-year-old that has never had that kind of respect in an interview. Empower them by giving them that respect, that time, and in the interview, and you watch them.
Oh yeah,
flourish,
and they leave changed.
They do leave changed,
and you know
whether you hire them or not.
And they will not be treated that way anywhere else. And they'll say, this was different. This interview was different. Over here, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, no interview. Take the application. We'll see you later. Apply online, whatever. Here, actually, the manager, the owner, actually sat down with me, spent 20 minutes, and it was a great discussion. I felt great during the whole thing. This was an experience that I remember. It's all about experience, right? And it wasn't a drilling. It was a conversation. We had rapport. Right? Yes. They don't know what rapport is, but they felt it.
Right.
They felt that connection. And they go, that's a great, even if they don't get hired. Right? They go, let's go check that place out. Right. Yeah. And they tell the parent, and the parents, I've seen parents come and thank us for how we interviewed the son. He didn't get a job. I know, but I want to thank you that he left with his head high and maybe not dejected like some of the other places they've had.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but hopefully this is the right place to bring this up. What is the importance of treating someone in the interview like that, whether you hire them or not? What's the importance of that? Because there is an importance.
Treat them like how? Oh, treat them right.
Totally respectful through the beginning of the process, end of the process, even if you know without a doubt there's no way you're going to hire them. Why is that important to treat them that way?
Well, in retail and restaurant and all that, because they're customers.
They're going to be your
potential customers or not. They'll leave that interview process feeling good about you or feeling poorly about you. And they will talk well about you or trash you just from that interview. And people don't understand how they hurt their business by how they treat applicants or how they don't treat applicants.
And never, ever judge these books by their cover.
No.
Because that's the most important thing. They're, at the end of the day, they are people and they are customers, whether you hire them or not. You want them as customers. So
they're customers, and they may not be now, but how do you know they're not?
How do you know?
But
and
definitely in the
family,
future,
that multiplies, and their family, and their cousins, and their brothers, and their friends. Somebody told me one time that a negative comment will go 10 times faster than one positive comment.
Well, or worse. A negative experience will with you forever.
I'm being conservative on my numbers, but if you give them a positive experience in that interview, they may go out and say, hey, they didn't hire me. I didn't fit the job. Maybe they accept it better. I didn't fit the job, but you might, sister, brother, cousin, friend. So you go back and now you found a good employee because of the one guy you didn't hire because you did him a favor because he didn't fit the job.
Well, in our CMO training, we talk about the value of a regular customer, right? How much you spend at their worth. So if you look at everybody applicant as a future regular customer, you're looking at very differently than just an applicant looking for a job.
Right.
This is a future customer, and everybody they talk to can be future customers or not. Right. So you can do a lot of damage by treating them like future customers, and they have that experience and it's a good one, and they come back. And so, and in restaurants, they'll come in the middle of right in the middle of a busy dinner. Hey, I'm looking for a job. And I see a lot of managers say, oh, I'm too busy right now. I go, hold on, time out. What if that's a regular customer coming up to you? Would you blow them off? No.
Right. It's busy. They're there during the busy time.
They don't know.
They say, you know what? I like eating here. What if they're eating? What if they're eating? I'd love to work here, man. Look at these guys. They're happy. They're even under pressure. They're happy. They're excited. They like to be here. Their boss is smiling all the time. Every time I come in here, I think I'll get a job here. Hey, can I have a job? No, don't bother me. We're too busy.
Come back.
Come on. Restaurant managers, remember, they're watching you all the time. Retail managers, They're watching you all the time.
Yeah, if it was a regular customer with a complaint, are you just gonna blow them off and say come on a different day?
Right.
No, you're gonna talk it right then there. We have the technique of the 1 minute interview, right? Where you
Right.
take 1 minute, whether it's 2 minutes, but it's good, and you schedule a different time. Obviously, you're busy,
Right.
but you take 1 or 2
That
minutes.
that
with them.
gets them to the next level.
Yeah.
See if you want to
They're customers or
yeah.
future customers, and it really works. And that we've seen it happen. I've seen the opposite happen too when they're not treated right. That goes to the principle that anybody that's involved in your business, you treat them as customers, whether it's vendors, bankers, annoying salespeople that come in there, right? That, hey, future customer. It depends how I treat them.
Absolutely.
If I just ignore them or blow them off, or no. Anybody you do contact with the business, you treat them as a customer. It's transformational for your business.
And I've seen that happen where managers of a retail store, you have all kinds of vendors that come into a retail store. The milk guy, I mean, now I'm talking old school stores, I'm sure. Some of the smaller chains and stuff.
The delivery drivers,
the tobacco guy, the candy guy, the bread guy.
The beer guy.
You got all these guys, and then you have something happen with one of your employees that's just an everyday thing, and you blow off the vendor and say, hey, I just hold on a second, I got to take care of this. You know what? You're forgetting that vendor's there every single week. He is a customer.
And talking about you to other people.
And talking to you about everybody. I can't stand that manager in there, or I love that guy. He's always got time for me. Think about those things.
Everybody.
Oh,
even I tell the owners, you need to treat that DoorDash driver right. You need to treat anybody doing business with you. They come in that DoorDash, you better have their order ready.
Yeah.
Treat him well. Fill his soda, right? Give him a goodie once in a while, something, something, and treat him right.
Yeah.
Because that's somebody doing business.
A
and they
little
go out there and
attaboy.
promote you. So
always have an attaboy ready.
Yep. So yeah. Number 10. This is a new one. So number 10 used to be something else, right? But this is new and it's worth speaking. What's funny too, over the years, there's been a lot of fluff creeping into leadership, to hiring, to, it's more fluff than ever. I think people trying to say something, right?
Right.
Trying to be different. And in trying to be different, they're actually dummying people down. Like the whole leaders versus managers thing. Oh, so many examples that we'll bring up that we'll talk about, but fluff, that doesn't make sense. And here's a big fluff on the hiring. So have a slow to hire, quick to fire mentality. I never heard anything like that before. Nobody said that, but now I'm seeing it a lot of places.
It's all the time.
It's being quoted. When my hair's on the back of my neck stand up, it's fingernails on a chalkboard, right? When I hear that, I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't even understand what you're saying. And one of our most favorite marketing gurus that we've been following for 20 years says this.
Yes, he does.
But I don't think he understands the context of it, because he doesn't have employees.
Right.
He doesn't have them. It's just him and somebody else. He
but it does.
But
now explain it the way the world's looking at it right now, because that way it does make sense.
Yeah. So,
but we're going to tell you why it doesn't make sense to do it.
So the first part, let's break it down. Slow to hire. Okay. So slow to hire means, I'm assuming, right, you're doing your due diligence. You're doing the background checks, reference checks. You really got the right person. You're getting, it's slow. It's not rushed. It's thorough. You're getting callbacks.
Wait a minute. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. It's thorough, right?
It's thorough.
And if you want, you're waiting for callbacks and reference checks, that's going to take a while, right? So it's slow and you're not rushed, because you want to make sure you're making a good decision.
Right.
So whatever time it takes to do that due diligence, to make sure it's the right person. So slow to hire. Okay. Makes sense, right? Quick to fire. That means as soon as you see issues that aren't resolved, right, you fire the employee quickly and don't wait 6 months to a year like most businesses do, or even longer.
Yeah.
I remember a manager.
Here we go again. What's wrong with that?
Well, I remember a manager we had. I told the area manager, fire him. I was the director of operations. And when he fired him, he says, yeah, I'm surprised you didn't fire me 6 months ago. That's what he told us.
Wow.
And he's right. Why do we wait so long? So quick to fire means don't have them a lot longer than you need them, right? So slow to hire, do your research, do your vetting, do your due diligence. Quick to fire, don't tolerate. So separately, I guess it makes sense.
Right.
But when you put them together is when it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So if my vetting is getting somebody to have to fire right away, quickly.
What's wrong with your vetting?
Something's wrong with your vetting.
Yeah, absolutely. See, and that's what nobody's looking wrong at. They're saying, oh yeah, what's wrong with taking my time, doing my due diligence, doing these things that I need to do to make sure I have the right candidate? but
Right.
then you're quick to fire. Why?
Why is this person
Yes.
getting fired
Right.
when you had all your due diligence? There's something wrong with your due diligence. There's something wrong with your process. There's something wrong with your interview. There's something wrong with your onboarding. There's something wrong that you're not catching that you should catch.
Absolutely.
And they come in and they blow up on you. They don't perform to standards. They shock everybody and they're getting fired right away.
I think a lot of managers, to be honest with you, and this just come to me, they feel like by doing the process, as far as I'm going to slow to hire, fast to fire, during the slow to hire, they interview quickly. They interview, yeah, I like this guy, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if he checks out. So their slow to hire is actually, well, it takes 2 weeks to get back a background check or this
Something
and
like that.
So they use the slow to hire. They don't actually know who the interviewee is.
And if they have to fire somebody quickly after hiring them, then they're committing the mistakes that we're talking about.
Right.
Guarantee you, if we sat in an interview, if we watch their process,
They're selling the job.
there's something wrong in the
Yep.
vetting process.
Yep.
Usually in the interview, it's going to be one of the 10 that we talked about, or one of the 9. This is number 10 that they're doing every time, repeatedly, over and over again, and they're getting the wrong people in spite of slow hiring, right? Fast firing. We say the exact opposite. Right, here we go. Here we get in trouble again.
We're getting in trouble.
A lot of things we say the exact opposite of conventional wisdom.
Right.
When we get to marketing, we buck conventional wisdom. When we get to operations, when we get to culture, it's just, we don't agree with a lot of that. Like I say, the fluff's correct. So quick to hire, right? Create a system where you don't need group interviews. You don't need to have 15 people interviewing.
You can make a decision. Minutes.
You can make a quick decision because of your hiring strategy, like ours. It doesn't take us long to disqualify somebody.
Ask the right questions.
Right. It doesn't take long to qualify anybody either, because if they're not disqualified through our gatekeeper system,
like them. They're in.
Hire them. So I'm not going to hire them. Well, hold on. We're not saying you're going to go out and party with them.
Right.
Why don't you like them? Well, if they're abrupt and, there's a reason why you wouldn't like them professionally, but personally, has nothing to do with it.
Are they a match for the job?
Right.
Again, match them to the job.
Right. And if we do these decisions quickly, which is good for the applicant too. Right. It's a quick decision, yes or no. Right. And usually we can do it in a couple of days. It's not 2 weeks or 2 months that I've seen.
Right.
In a couple of days, you're making a decision on it. If your hiring and interviewing process is good,
solid,
and really vetting the right way, it's quick. Yes or no. Usually no is quicker than yes. Right. And if it's a yes, you might have a second interview, and we'll tell you how to do that too. But it's a quick decision. And if you're getting them in quickly, decisively, and correct, they don't get fired.
No.
And they're with you for 3, 5, 10, 20, 30 years. I've seen that happen.
And not because you hired them quickly, but because you're training them properly.
Yeah, but it's a match. You've got a real match. You were able to determine a match
them
quickly.
And then you spend the time training. There's no reason to fire.
Yeah, exactly. So slow to hire, quick to fire doesn't make sense.
Right.
Fast to hire, fast to fire. Yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes sense because you're not vetting.
Yeah.
Your interviews are quick, and like the 15-minute interview I talk about. I see these quick interviews. Yeah. You're going to hire a wrong person. You know nothing about them. They're going to get fired quickly,
right? Or
they're going to quit quickly. Yeah. So fast works, but the best is fast, slow.
Correct.
You have a good process. You can use our process, use your own process of vetting that. You can make a quick decision about somebody.
And then solid training,
onboarding. We go all that. And then a culture that they want to thrive in. And that's in our culture. That's in our CEO training, how to do a culture. And it's slow. I mean, it's kind of something really unexpected that got through the gatekeeper that just really surprised you. Or life happens, right? They end up terminating for other reasons, but not normally from performance or punctuality or some of the other things that we're looking at. So yeah,
all the measurements are in place. So 15 minutes, you could be the interview's done, and then you spend good quality time with them. You really get to know them then.
Yep.
In the training process.
And just think about your hiring advantage. If you can hire somebody quickly and they stay, right, and you got the advantage then. Because mainly what you're doing, you're disqualifying them quickly.
Right.
Like we talked about the panel interview. There's 6 people, 4 liked them and 2 didn't. Do they all take a vote? 4 against 2? Okay, you're on.
And what's funny about that system is if it's the same exact questions, the same exact thing, Then it comes down to likability. That's all those
Yeah.
6 people are going after. This program has none of that.
Mhm.
This program, Gatekeeper Hiring, has this. They'll match this job this way. Do they have these fundamentals? Yes, they do. Okay, let's put them in that position, teach
Yep.
them. Are they teachable?
Mhm.
And then it has nothing to do. Did I say likability in any of that?
Mhm.
I didn't. It's not about that. It's do they fit the program?
Mhm.
And the program is the time that they're there, showing up on time, all the elements that we have in Gatekeeper. I don't want to
Mhm.
give everything away. And then quickly hiring them, getting them into a program where they're taught right away and fitting into the culture.
And of the panel of 6, there's 2 that didn't want to hire him. I want them to do all the interviewing.
Because they're
Depending on
for the
why they
public.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys didn't like him for why? You guys are right. You guys do the interviewing for your own. You
Right.
4, go do something else. Send
Yeah.
it to the marketing department.
Yeah.
But you're not interviewing because
Yeah.
they saw something that you guys didn't see. These are your interviewers. I mean, it's general. I mean, it could be the other way.
Could be the other way around.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's a quick decision. Those 2 said no. Very quick decision. Okay.
Right.
Next.
Right.
So it's a real strategic advantage if you can hire quickly and they stay with you for the retention that you want.
And retention.
Because it takes you too long. I've seen people like go do another job, right? Because it's this process is too long.
Right.
And so you lose the good candidates because
You do, and then you're stuck with whatever's left and you're desperate hiring.
Yep. So those are the top 10 that we see. And this is accumulated over 30 years of interviewing and refining, Gatekeeper hiring. But I think the first thing is stop doing these things that we talked about, the top 10. Go back and listen to them, write them down, and make sure in your interview process you're not committing those. And it will be transformational. Your onboarding, your interviewing, your selection process will completely change just from these 10 that we gave them.
Right.
Of what not to do.
Yeah, what not to do. And the cool thing about it is you go to Rise from the Ashes consulting show on YouTube and you hit the subscribe button, you hit the like button, you share with some of your buddies, and you hit the bell notification. So every time one of our shows come up and you get this free information, value-packed podcast, every time we have something, it pops up on your phone and you have an opportunity to go and listen to it as many times as you want to and need to get you the information you need that we didn't have 35, 40 years ago that we want to share with you. This is Rise from the Ashes Consulting Show. I'm Kevin James.
Tom Duhigg.
And we're here to transform your business, transform your life today.